Let's go back at the Spurs games this past weekend. Some takeaways from the Spurs loss to Golden State. And will this team get to the 20-point win mark or more?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertronic Springs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs on Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great day. Don't be falling for April Fool jokes, okay? Got to be on alert. Keep your head on a swivel. And as always, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. iTunes, Ken's 5 Plus app, YouTube, Spotify, the list goes on and on. Hey, what are we talking about today? We're going to be looking back at the Spurs weekend set of games versus Knicks versus Warriors. And then bringing our guest, Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. We're going to be discussing if the Spurs can hit the 20 wins or more before they close out the season. And then get into some of your comments of what y'all talking about over at the YouTube page right there on Locked On Spurs. But first, your Spurs had a couple of games over the weekend versus the Knicks versus the Warriors. I think by now everybody knows that game versus New York. What a game, thrilling game. The Spurs were able to win in overtime, 130-126 again in OT. And let me tell you, I was there on press row, and it was electric. And that felt like a playoff game. And the Spurs got themselves a thrilling win. And kudos to the Spurs from Wemby to Pop. Everybody credited the fans for showing up for that game. Wemby said that the fans were the sixth man, but in that game, it was pretty much just a steady flow of Victor Wembanyama, shocker, 40 points and 20 rebounds. Not to be outdone, with Jalen Brunson, he had himself a game, 61 points versus San Antonio, all that in a losing effort. And Devin Vassell had 23 points. But again, that was a great game. It looked like the Spurs are carrying a lot of momentum. They're on a 3-game winning streak after the win versus New York. And then they hosted the Warriors yesterday night. The Spurs came up short. Losing to Golden State 117-113, the Spurs dropped to 18-57. All right, well, let's do some quick takeaways from that game. And that's the most recent game ahead of the start of this week. So what stood out for me, 3 takeaways. 1, Victor Wembanyama was just a beast again. 32 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, hitting from deep, getting in the paint, dunking on guys, blocking shots, just doing what Victor does. But one thing I did like to see is just kind of some fieriness out of him. There were a couple of questionable plays, especially one where, it got a really reaction from him. I think they called him for a foul, and it really wasn't. Or, no, I'm sorry, it was a non-call. They swiped the ball at him, totally got bodied, they being the Warriors. And you just saw him have just a reaction. You never really saw him get fired up like that before him, but he did for the non-call. I love seeing that out of him. Sure, the Spurs lost, but that leads me to point number 2. Takeaway number 2 is, again, Spurs showing signs of maturity to wrap up the season. You rewind the clock to the start of the season, first 2-3 months, and in a tight game like it was for San Antonio versus the Warriors, I don't think they win. You fast forward to now or yesterday, and now they're making it competitive. The Spurs were able to outscore the Warriors 32-28 in the fourth period to get things interesting. I think it got as close as 3 points. Spurs made a furious comeback, and I like seeing that out of them. Again, tip your cap to them. Sure, it's a loss, but if we're just now looking at growth from this team as I think there's only like 7-8 more games left in the season, then that's a big sign. The maturity enough to keep things interesting. So kudos to the Spurs on that. And the last takeaway is the Spurs did not have 3 of their other main weapons. There was no Sohan, there was no Vassell, there was no Keldon Johnson. It was just pretty much Wemby and everybody else. And everybody else stepped up. Sure, there was you're missing the Sohan defense, you're missing the Vassell's reliability on offense. But look, credit the Spurs, guys for stepping up. Guys like Malachi Branham, who got the start, 12 points. Sandro Mamu, he got 10 points and 11 rebounds. Zach Collins, 13 points and 8 boards. Champagnie, 9 points, 5 rebounds. The Spurs had 6 players in double-figure scoring to help Wemby. And that definitely did, was noticeable because the Spurs made things interesting to close out the game. So, yeah, I mean, even his Pop after the game said that Mamu is one of his favorite players. Love to see him play. But all in all, I mean, Osman, 18 points, 2 rebounds in 36 minutes. So everybody did step up their game, but it's kind of hard, when you're missing 3 key vital members of your machine, that being KJ and Devin and Sohan, and the Spurs just came up short. Questionable calls to end the game. Yes, the Spurs were right in it. But, yeah, I mean, the Warriors are going to warrior, or should I say Curry's going to Curry. He had 33 points in 33 minutes. He was a point-a-minute guy. And Draymond Green had 21 points and 6 rebounds. But overall, look, a loss, but again, signs of improvement, signs of maturity, keeping things close, Victor being Victor, and everybody else stepping up. So there are some takeaways from this past weekend. Coming up next, we have Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. We're going to be discussing the Spurs can hit the 20-win mark or more to finish out the season, and then talk about you guys, what comments you're all, just leaving us at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. But first, I want to talk about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. The easiest, most exciting way to get into the action while you watch your favorite sports and players that you love to cheer for. You pick more than or less than on 2 or more players' stats and watch the winnings roll in. Look, they got it all. From the quick pay, yeah, they got that too. They got quick withdrawals, quick pay. Look, PrizePicks now offers Apple Pay for the quick and easiest deposit into your account this basketball season. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, an enormous selection of stats and player types. That's what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports. And you can get on in all the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to the new level during basketball's postseason. Playoffs begin April 20th. Play-in round starts on April 16th, 17th, and 19th. You want to be on PrizePicks and get in on all the action. So what are you waiting for? Download the PrizePicks app right now. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's, again, promo code is LOCKEDONNBA. You want to get that first deposit match up to $100. So get that app right now. And, you want to go to PrizePicks. Everybody go there right now. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And look who is back, everybody. Raul Dominguez. Make sure to follow him on X at Dominguez5. He is with the AP Sports. All those write-ups you read right after the game, that's the guy. That's him. He's the man behind it. But all in all, he's a friend of the show. He's a frequent guest here. Raul, welcome back to Locked On Spurs.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. By the way, cool shirt, man.
Thank you.
Got the
Had to
pearls.
see him a couple times. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My bucket list concert was met about a few years ago. I went to New Jersey to check out Hall & Oates.
Oh, that's nice. Before the big split,
before they split, And let me tell you, everybody was just singing and dancing in their seats, and it was a great show. But hey, why is Raul here? Aside from showing off the biggest arms in Texas, we're here to ask: will the Spurs hit 20 or more wins to close out the season? And then we're going to talk about you guys, the Locked On Spurs fans. What are y'all chatting about over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page? Raul, let's make it very clear, everybody. We are recording this before the Spurs Easter Sunday game versus the Warriors, so that may change a bit things. But win or lose, they still got a handful of games on the slate that look winnable. Now, Raul, before we get your thoughts, let's quickly go over the schedule.
Yeah.
Again, recorded before Sunday, so we got the Warriors. And then up next, it'll be at Denver, at Pelicans, at home versus the Sixers, at Memphis, at Thunder, and then a pair of games at home versus the Nuggets and the Pistons. So when I look at that schedule roll, it looks doable. It looks like this team might hit 20 or more. Where do you stand?
I think they're going to win at least 21. I mean, you look at the schedule, they only need 2 more wins to get to 20. I think they can win at Detroit. I think Victor's going to be really up for the Memphis game, after, what happened, the last games against Memphis. I think he's going to be really up for that game. Mm-hmm. And so will the rest of the team, but especially Victor. I think Denver, by the time we play Denver may have already had everything locked up. So there's a chance they may be sitting some people.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the way they've been playing. I mean, New York was one of the hottest teams coming in.
Oh, yeah.
Great defensively, and the Spurs just took them apart. And I'm sure some people will say, well, the Knicks, weren't ready for him, whatever. The Knicks, you're if you have Tibbs as Tom Thibodeau as a coach, you're always prepared. So Spurs just played well, and the way New York came back shows that they were, could win this game, but the Spurs just played better, down the stretch.
Yeah.
But again, because of that, I definitely see them winning at least 3 and maybe 4 or 5, maybe.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they will go over. Vegas had them about 22.5 games win total to end the season. I think they'll go over that. So I look at the schedule. So again, they had the Warriors this past weekend. For those y'all looking at the rundown, look above. I talked about the weekend game, so that'll be recapped right before Raul joined us. But you got the Warriors. They came into San Antonio, up and down. The Draymond Green thing is bothering them, distracting them. It looked like it impacted Curry, but regardless, that's a team that still could possibly beat the Spurs. Denver, maybe a tough out. Maybe Denver wants to get a game in to get the rhythm going. But then you look at the schedule. You got no Embiid with the 76ers. I don't know. He might come back. I don't know. I mean, maybe for something. I doubt it. But you got the Pistons. I mean, that's just tank bowl right there. I mean, that's just the tank. What a way to end the season too. And then, of course, as you mentioned, Denver might be sitting guys in that April 12th game in San Antonio. Thunder game, that'll be interesting because that'll be the last time we see Chet and Wemby go up against one another. So, I think Wemby will be up for that. He's always up for games versus Chet. Yeah, I got them going over that. I personally would like to go over because I just happened to have been in Vegas when the totals came out. So I need that to go over. So hopefully that'll hit. But another thing about this, too, why we're predicting this is because, Raul, to close out the season, they're looking a lot sharper, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think they're starting to figure it out. I think one thing I've noticed is that Devin and Victor, they're starting to play well off each other, and they're doing it by just a look. I mean, it seemed like sometimes early in the season, Devin wasn't sure how to get, wasn't sure when to get Victor the ball and vice versa. Yeah. But I was watching them, wasn't this game, it was the previous game before that against Phoenix. And I saw Devin just kind of look at Victor, and it was like, there was nothing like, I'm sorry, in games before, it's like you see Devin kind of directing Victor, but this time he just kind of gave him a look, and Victor rolled to a spot and gave him the ball, and then Victor gave it right back once Devin cut. And that type of kind of unspoken communication, haven't seen it with the Spurs, since Tony and Timmy, and then Manu with everybody. But you can see them that they're starting to get so comfortable where they don't need to, telegraph anything. Like they know exactly where they're going to go, what they're going to do. That's huge for the Spurs. And then I think what's also helped them is the fact that everyone knows their roles now. Mm-hmm. You have your set starting 5. You have the guys coming off the bench at certain points. Regular rotations. I think that's helping them a lot. And then the big thing is just Victor. I mean, Victor's just he's figuring it out quickly, and everyone keeps talking about it. But people keep saying, I've heard a few people say this. I think maybe Victor even said it in some sense where this will be the worst that you'll ever see him play. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he's playing this well is scary.
Yeah, it is very scary. Another thing that I'm liking out of the Spurs of late is maturity. They're able to be mature, especially in close games. Look, that Knicks game went into overtime. If that happened first couple months of the season, the Spurs blow it. Or I don't even know if they get to overtime. Maybe they just blow it in the final minutes because we saw that. Remember that Toronto home game where they were up big and they blew it in overtime? There was a couple other games where they just lost leads early in the season. Now they're sustaining it, or they're battling, and that's what I like about it. It looks like their mettle was tested a lot throughout the season, and it came together now. Now, for those fans that maybe not liking this because the Spurs need to stay within the worst 3 records to get the one pick, I understand that. But we were starting to hear them talk about carrying momentum into the next season. Devin talked about it. Trace talked about it. Wemby talked about it after the Nick win. I think there's some building blocks there, especially with Wemby and Vassell. A guy that I got kind of, I'm not going to say untouchable, but kind of close to, okay, maybe we not want to let him go. He's a guy like Trey Jones. He's really been the captain. I got a chance to talk to him after the Knicks game. And I asked him, like, what are you seeing out of yourself as the season ends? And he said that he now feels like he's more of an extension of Popovich on the court. And I think that's huge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've always loved Trey's game. I know people kind of knock him. The only thing is, maybe his size defensively. But the guy scraps, and you got Wemby in the back. So, again, Wemby makes up for a lot of mistakes or, someone getting past you. But I've always loved Trey's game. I don't know who they're going to pick up in the offseason. But even if Trey goes to that bench unit, I mean, he's a great, he'd be a great backup. If for some reason they can't quite find the piece at point guard, have him back as your starter. But he's just a tremendous piece. And like he said, he's an extension of Pop. And, he's in that mold of trying to think of like a Speedy Claxton.
Absolutely.
Just one of those guys or George Hill, guys that kind of, do a little bit of everything. And, but the main thing is they're sort of a coach on the floor, someone, as he said, an extension of Pop. And that's big, whether it's for the starters or the reserves.
Yeah. Do you think the way they're playing right now to wrap up the season, would that maybe cause GM Brian Wright and the staff there to kind of pause, like, okay, maybe we shouldn't make a dramatic change because these kids are starting to get it a little bit. And if we make a big change, it might disrupt that. Or do you still feel that changes will or should be coming in the offseason heading into the new season?
Yeah. They always think long-term. So I think they kind of have an idea what they're going to do. I think the big thing is going to see what draft picks they get. If they can get 2 in the top 7, that's going to be a huge one. They're going to be able to add 2 great pieces to this lineup. Be able to extend that bench because, maybe 1 or 2 starters, goes to the reserve role, or one of those 2 guys, becomes, a reserve. One of the 2 draft picks becomes a reserve. Either way, that's going to extend their bench. And I know sometimes, when they have the draft picks, it takes them a little while to get on. If you can get a top 7 pick, the chances are that they're going to be playing, they're going to play immediately just because of the talent level. But as far as like a big move, I think it's just going to depend on what's out there. Yeah. I know people keep talking about Trae Young. I still don't think it's wise for the Spurs to trade everything that they have just for one piece. They have a chance to add a lot of great pieces, draft picks, salary cap, young players. So I think what you're seeing now is what the Spurs envisioned at the beginning of the year. I think that this is what they figured they were going to do the entire season, but it's taken them longer. I think playing with Wemby is obviously no one's ever played with someone like Wemby before. So I think it's taken them a little while to adjust, but I think now you see what their potential is. I don't foresee huge moves, but I see nice little pieces to add around Wemby.
Yeah. You're speaking of adjusting to Wemby. Even at the trail end of the season, you still hear that comments being made. We're still adjusting. I mean, Pop even mentioned it recently, saying that we're still getting used to him. He told the media after the Knicks game, like, sometimes he forgets that Wemby is a kid still. Basically, he's 20 years old, and he looks at the stats. He's like, okay, whoops, maybe I should not have been so hard on him because he gave me 40 and 20. But I'm looking at the Vassell Wemby combos you brought up, Raul. That is something there. There's something there that they can really build upon. I know it's building around Wemby, but should they broaden that now to building around Wemby and Vassell? I mean, if they needed a combo team, there it is right there. After the game versus the Knicks, I asked even Vassell, I go, like, what are you seeing different out of yourself from beginning to the end of the season? And he didn't answer my question directly, but he did say that he's noticing now that teams are double teaming him more. He's catching that now. There might be something there to build around those 2 pieces, Raul.
Oh, definitely. Before the game, with the Knicks asked Pop about, as far as, Derek White would talk about how Pop would go into the film room and tell him, Pop would just pop his head in the film room when Derek White was in there and say, you belong. Tell him, you belong in the NBA. And I asked him, is there sort of a similar ascension with some of these players? And he brought up Devin. He said, Devin's a scorer now. You look at Devin. Devin can score from anywhere. Makes these tough shots, makes some really hard shots. a big, obviously Wemby was a huge part of that win, but Devin made some really clutch shots. Right after the Knicks would come down, Brunson would hit a 3-pointer, or DiVincenzo would hit a 3-pointer. Devin would just come in and make this, really tough fadeaway shot or this runner in the paint. So he's a scorer now. I think he's someone you can definitely build around. Add another piece to it and have a 3-man. I mean, most of these teams have 3 great players now. But yeah, I definitely think Devin and Wemby could be something really special. And again, when I was talking about earlier, as far as the kind of communicating without saying anything, they have something there. And they're going to have the whole off season. Wemby's going to be, with the Olympics in France, but I know he'll be back to work out. And so they're going to have more time to work together, get to know each other. And I think that's going to be one of the best combinations in the league. I think you're going to see more alley-oops, more pick and rolls, more everything. So that's going to be it's going to be hard for teams to stop both of them next season.
Yeah, Keldon Johnson, I forget which game it was afterwards, but he did say that he goes, this team could have had the potential to be really, really scary. Like this team could have been it. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, or now it does, somewhat. Look, as of this recording, they're on a 3-game winning streak. I think that's the first time they've been on this in years, right? They had a 3-game winning streak. I think the last time.
Can't remember the last time they had one. Maybe I can't remember if they had one last year or not, but maybe when DeMar was here. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. So there's a sign right there where you're seeing little signs that they're getting a lot better. The 3-game winning streak, sustaining the lead, taking opposing teams' punches and the runs and hanging on to that and winning in overtime, as we saw versus New York. You're seeing everybody kind of come together. Wow. I mean, this is what everybody thought it would be to start the season. They were talking about wins. If they had started off on the right foot, maybe we'd be singing a different story, maybe playing. But Raul, you're talking about getting them to 20 or more wins. Yeah, I'm right there. I'm with you. I think they will get over that hump. But one thing that I like too is that they're not going to end this. I mean, barring anything catastrophic, but they're not going to end the season on a sour note. They're going to. They look kind of like in the locker room that you and I go to, and the post game. They look, as of this recording, they're very happy with the progress they made, Raul.
Yeah, I mean, you look at was it Phoenix? I think during the bubble. Yeah. That they had a great bubble. I think they didn't qualify for the play-in, if I remember correctly, but they played well. During that COVID, when they closed the regular season and the COVID, and they use that as kind of a catapult for the next season, and then for the seasons to come. So closing strongly, especially for a young team, is huge. I think it really, really can help them.
And one thing I did like about that game versus New York is that it gave this young team sample of what it's like to be in the playoffs. The entire Frost Center, it felt like a playoff game. And you were there, I was there. I mean, everybody was up. It was hyped. Wemby was even telling everybody afterwards that, hey, you guys are the 6-man. He even said it again in postgame, saying the fans are the 6-man. They got us over the hump versus the Knicks, and every win at the Frost. So it's the Spurs, despite their record, they are ending on the right note. I think they will get over 20 or more wins. Raul is in agreement with me. I mean, just look at the schedule. It has to do that. But Raul, something tells me about that Pistons game. There's a part of me to be like, you sure you want to win this one, Spurs? You sure you want to? You sure you want to win this one?
I think as long as they finish in the top 3, I think they'll be okay. There's a chance that they may drop to 5, which I think will make it a little tougher for them to get a good player. But, at this point, you got Wemby, you got Vassell, Sohan, Keldon. I don't, it'd be great if they got the number 1 pick, but I think if they don't, it's not like last season where, you wanted the number 1 pick because it's won by Nyama. This year, I think, top 5, I think is going to be somewhere in the top 5, actually top 7. Is going to be really helpful for them. There's some really potential stars in this draft, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what the Spurs have cooking to close out the season. But we want to hear from you. Do you think the Spurs will hit 20 or more wins to wrap up the season? Let Raul know on X at Dominguez5. You let me know on the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. And speaking of that, we're going to be taking a look at what you guys are talking about. You guys are leaving a lot of comments, so that's good. And unfortunately, we can't read them all. but we're going to pick two of them to hear what y'all are talking about over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. That's next right here on Locked On Spurs. Hey, I want to talk about Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire Stick that you can plug into your existing TV and provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as live and free TV. So whether it's opening weekend for baseball, the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have Fire TV right now. Fire TV also has recently created Fire TV channels that deliver a constant supply of videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV lets you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up with the late-to-date. Right now, keep up to date on the latest of the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. I also want to talk to you about Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee San Antonio. Go there right now, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. That's in the 281 to 1604 area. They got it all. You need a latte? Check. Regular coffee, like their signature drink, the Muslinger. Yep, they got that too. What else they got? Oh, you know, cold brew? Yep. What about a signature drink like the Wim or the Alien, I should say? Yeah, you know who that's all about, Victor Wembanyama. And speaking of the Alien, look, they have this line called the Lightning Bolt series where they're changing the recipe. They're going to be adding Lotus Energy instead of Red Bull. Now, Lotus has similar caffeine to Red Bull, but with 7 power plant extracts. And it gives you more flexibility in creating new drinks, and it gives Muslingers great flexibility in creating new drinks as well. But look, they still got the Red Bulls. If you want the Red Bull, they can add that in there for you. But the default will be Lotus. So, yeah, I mean, their Lightning Bolt line includes the Alien, as mentioned, now made with Lotus Energy. Combining natural caffeine and a powerful blend of 7 plant extracts, the new and improved Lightning Bolts, they'll keep you powered up all day. That's just the beginning. You need mini donuts. They got that too. Look, they're a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs. They're a proud member of San Antonio. They love serving San Antonio the best drinks in this city. So, yeah, go check it out. That menu is awesome, as mentioned. You know, I love the interaction with that staff. And follow them on social media at Muslinger SATX. Pick a platform. They are there. 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive, open every single day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Go there right now, San Antonio, because life is too short for bland coffee. And we are back right here on Locked On Spurs with Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. Make sure to follow him on X at Dominguez5. Don't get him upset, though, because just like the Hulk, you don't want to get him angry. You know, you don't want to like him if he gets angry. So you got to make sure to follow him right now. But, Raul, it's time to look at what the Locked On Spurs fans are talking about. And they are talking a lot of stuff, mainly about the draft. I think everybody knows the season's wrapping up, so the draft is on their mind.
Yeah.
But let's start off with the first one. So in the last episode, everybody, last week, we're talking about the Spurs' approach to the draft. Now, in that scenario, it was they're going to keep their pick, and they're going to go for either best fit or best available. So that was a scenario we cooked up, Raul, and a lot of fans are talking about that. The first comment is up from, you're going to love this handle, Raul. Good hair. Thank you, Good Hair. That's the name of the commenter right there. So Good Hair is commenting on this. Because I think the Spurs should take Richache, Williams, or Castle. And if they get the Raptors pick, take Matis or best player available. So thank you, Good Hair, for that comment. What do you think, Raul? Do you think the Spurs should take a best fit or a best available approach to wherever they land in the draft?
If they go by their history, it's going to always be the best available. They've always gone for the best available player more so than, a certain fit. So I'd see them doing that again. It'd be great if they could get Modest, if they get the 7th pick from Toronto, but I don't think he's going to be around. Because the Raptors is a top 6 protected pick. So be 7 at best. So I don't think he'll be around for the 7th pick, but yeah, I think it's going to be best available. And that's what they've done traditionally. They'd rather get the best available player, and then kind of, build other pieces around it. So I think I think they will do that again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It looks like the Spurs are definitely looking at Risha Shea. Now, it could be, diversion tactics or whatnot, but already on social media, if you've seen photos and video of Peter J. Holt checking him out in his game. I think R.C. Buford was once at his game. Don't know if that's posturing ahead of the draft, but nevertheless, Risha Shea would be a good player to get. Based on his size, his shooting ability. French kid, joining up forces with Wemby and whatnot. So I like what I'm seeing out of him. Hopefully he does it. But I agree. I think historically the Spurs do best available, and they'll definitely do that heading into the 2024 NBA draft. All right. So the next comment is from, forgive me if I mess up your last name here, but it's from Ramon. I'm going to really try my best, Raul. Punsalang. There you go. I'm sorry if I messed that up there. But Raul Punsalang commented, interesting, heading into the offseason. Now, this I'm not what he said, but I think this is where he's going with. So the Spurs are going to offseason, and now he says, quote, Spurs are undersized and need size and athleticism. Here's the trick, Raul. In all positions. So, Ramon, interesting comment there. What are your thoughts? You think the Spurs are really undersized at all positions and at non-athletic? Ramon, I kind of disagree with you, but let's hear what Raul has to say.
I don't think so, because that was the whole big thing to start the season is that they wanted to go big and they wanted to go athletic. You had, Jeremy, trying to think it was Jeremy, Keldon, Devin, Victor, and Zach. And they had one of the, tallest, most athletic lineups in the NBA, and it just – didn't work because they didn't have that true point guard. And by the way, with Jeremy, I know it didn't work out with Jeremy as far as him being a point guard, but he's become such a better playmaker. I think that really helped him. Him, being at his natural position, but still able to be a playmaker, I think is huge. It's a huge benefit from that move, which, he's not a point guard. Keep him out of the point guard, but again, that really helped his playmaking develop. But as far as their size, I don't see them undersized. I mean, you have Zach off the bench. You still, Sandro doesn't play much, but he's a tall guy. Bassey got hurt.
Charles Bassey. Yep.
Yeah, Dominic Barlow. I still think Dominic Barlow is going to be a heck of a player.
Oh yeah.
I think he got into, or he did get into basketball late, so I think he's still developing. I think Pop's called him a neophyte before because, he's still kind of developing his game and his understanding of it. But I really think I wouldn't be surprised if Dominic's in the starting lineup within the next, couple of years, depending on who they pick up. But, I don't think they're undersized. I think the only one who's, I guess, a little on the smaller side would be Trey. Yeah. But, you got to have dogs like Trey in the lineup, guys that are going to battle and do whatever they can. So to me, he's, he's a little undersized, but what's that term? Not the size of the dog in the fight, but the fight in the dog. So
yeah, that's why I never mess with Raul because of that phrase. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of that dog in him.
Same with me with you. But no, I don't think they're undersized. Definitely athletic. I think right now it's more just a matter of just them kind of building chemistry, and I would still like to see them get a veteran leader in.
Me too.
A veteran leader that's going to be on the court, just to kind of calm them down in some of these moments.
Yeah, I think that will definitely be addressed. But no, Ramon, I agree with Raul that we disagree with your comments. The Spurs are not undersized at all, minus Trey Jones. But even then, I mean, look at what Trey Jones does. As mentioned, I did talk with him after the game, and he said, "I'm now feeling more of an extension of Pop, and I think that's valuable." And it's not like an undersized guard can't succeed in the NBA. We see
look what Jalen did.
Look what Jalen did. Yeah, I mean, just tore up the Spurs defense. I mean, 62 points. Yeah. So it is possible now. I'm not saying Trey Jones could reach. I would love for him to reach that level, but it doesn't look like he is. But he is a facilitator. And look, there's only one basketball. Everybody's got to eat, and he's the type of guy that will sacrifice, his shot attempts to get everybody going and get the offense flowing and everything set. But look, you can't get more not undersized than Wemby. So there you go. And, he's only getting bigger. I mean, just look at pictures of him to start the season now. You see he's adding more size to his frame, so they're definitely coming along. But
no, I was going to say, and he's doing it the smart way. He's not trying to get too big too quick. And, you see he's starting to develop the David Robinson arms, and starting to get a little bigger. And, I'm sure they're going to start working on his legs to get him, more of a solid base. But, he's not trying to pack on pounds, him and his team and Spurs are smart. They know, this kid's been skinny his whole life. If he suddenly puts on a lot of weight, then you're going to look into maybe some knee, back problems and things like that. So he's doing it the correct way,
And to drive home that point, if you were at the game or followed Raul on X at his handle there was a scary moment with Wemby. It looked like he hurt himself pretty bad, and they rushed him out quick, and it was just right to the locker room. And I heard did Brian Wright show up too or something like that?
As soon as Wemby went to the back locker room, I saw the two Spurs doctors go right behind him maybe a minute or two later, and then right behind the trainers was Brian Wright, just sort of almost like speed walking to the back. Thankfully, Wemby said it wasn't bad. He said he just bumped knees. He said it was just a lot of pain that he was dealing with, and he said the muscles kind of tightened, so he had to loosen up his muscles to get back out there. But he was fine. But yeah, I mean, obviously that put a scare into everybody.
Yeah, it really did. So that'll tell you exactly the approach they're taking with Wemby and his physical well-being. Even if he winces the way he did, they're going to take care of it right away, and they did. So yeah, I agree with you. I think he needs to get a bigger base. Maybe not as big as Timmy, because Timmy, if y'all never saw Timmy in person, he had a big trunk. And that's why he was real successful in the block. He had a big backside, and he was able to use it. And he had a strong lower body. I think that's what doomed Robinson, right? He was just too. I want to say he was not weak at all, but his back just took so much pounding, right?
Yeah, with David was he I can't remember, he grew 5-6 inches, sophomore year in college or whatever it was. So I think it took him a little while to kind of adjust to being a little taller, but. Yeah, with David, back then the rules aren't the same. I think if David Robinson played in today's NBA, I mean, he would just be killing. He'd be killing people, But back then, you could, you had the bad boys and that type of player, who could be really physical to the point where it's, I didn't even think it was real defense. I think it was just more just sort of, just almost like a football tackle.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you'll see, you've seen the shorter guys defend Wemby this season in the block. I mean, Lou Dort, shit him out, like nothing. So I think that'll be something for them to focus. But hey, we're speaking about size, Ramon. Can't get more size and adding more size to Wemby size in the offseason. But hey, everybody, we appreciate y'all leaving the comments. Again, I wish we could read them all, but we'll read more tomorrow. See what y'all are talking about over at the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. Raul, what is cooking in your neck of the woods? I know you do Spurs, but you do other sports too in San Antonio.
Yeah, not just Spurs right now. My buddy Tim Price is going to be covering the Valero Texas Open for AP. Does a great job with that. Him and I both worked at the Express News, so great friend, great writer. Other than that, just kind of waiting for the season to close out, and I think it's going to be a pretty momentous off season for the Spurs. So even more so than last year, because obviously with Wemby, that was huge. But I think this year is going to be even bigger because they're going to be able to build around him. So that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the off season too, because that's when you go into training mode, and then I see you in the next season. And you're jacked like Keldon or Devin. But anyway, everybody, make sure to follow Raul on X at Dominguez5. You see it on your screen right now. Give him a follow. Again, don't get him mad. Don't get him angry. Follow him right away. As Hulk said, or Bruce Banner says, you wouldn't like him as he's angry. So make sure to give him a follow right now. And as always, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow. I believe Hector Ledesma, yes, the Valley Sports contributor. He'll be joining us. For those of y'all who ever checked out, I mean, he goes in depth. Y'all know what I mean. He says, I have to hold him back sometimes for a while. I say, hey, we did time out. When he got 20 minutes on the show, Hector. But it's all fun. He'll be joining us tomorrow. discussing all things silver and black. And check out Locked On Sports Today, 24/7 streaming channel only on YouTube. 24/7 Sports, the national, regional, local hosts were all there. 24/7 Locked On Sports Today. Go follow it right now. So for Raul Bruce Banner Dominguez, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.